Knock, knock. Posted by SoLonely200 on Reddit. Ever get the feeling you're about to do something really stupid? I did, as I reached for the doorknob after hearing someone knock on my door. A voice in the back of my head spoke, a voice I didn't recognize.
"Whatever you do not open the door,"
it hissed. I pulled my hand back and looked out the peephole. I saw nothing, but I heard 3 more sharp knocks. I stepped back.
"Don't believe your senses. Don't open the door,"
it said again. Something told me to listen. Dread filled my chest and knocking got louder and began pounding. I smelled something like rotten eggs. I almost gagged as the knocking continued. I grabbed a knife from my kitchen and sat down, eyes trained on the door. The knocking stopped. I breathed a sigh of relief, but then I heard the doorknob rattling.
"Don't open it. No matter what, do not open the door,"
the voice said again. I finally replied. Who are you?" I asked aloud to no one in particular.
"A friend. Now stop questioning me. Don't take your eyes off the door."
The noise ceased. Then the phone started ringing.
"Don't answer the phone,"
it directed. I ignored the voice this time and picked up the receiver. It was my mom. Then I remembered. My mom was dead. "Please let me in," she said, and I hung up the phone. The knocking resumed. This time the sound of my mother screaming, "Let me in!"
"It's a lie. Don't open the door,"
the voice directed. My head was beginning to hurt and I was beginning to feel nauseous. I needed air, but the voice spoke.
"Ignore what you're feeling. Don't give in. Do not open the door."
I still listened, reluctantly, as the knocking on the door continued. What was on the other side that was so bad? I had to wonder. My TV suddenly switched off and I heard a voice cut through the static from the TV. "Let me in!" it yelled. I heard tapping on the glass now as well, as the knocking continued.
"You're almost done, I promise. Just do not open the door."
A nagging feeling in the back of my head argued that I should open the door. I had saw there was nothing there, but what was knocking? I stood and gulped. I was shaking at this point, gripping the knife. I grabbed the doorknob and swung the door open. And there was nothing. I breathed a sigh of relief. I looked at the clock. 4 hours had passed since the first knock. Had it really been that long? It had been a long day. I decided to eat something then go to bed. I still can't explain what happened today. I haven't heard that voice anymore either. I'm posting this because I figured you guys would enjoy it. I'm doing it just before bed. I'm having trouble sleeping though, don't get me wrong. I'm exhausted, but I can't sleep. Because I just heard a knock on my closet door. Happy Couple Farm, posted by user WolfFooty on r/NoSleep. I had planned a vacation with my girlfriend, Rosa. We had been dating for about 5 or so months at that point and had wanted to go to a hotel for a night, if you know what I mean. We ended up finding a cheap hotel near a farm in Springdale, Utah. It was a 2-hour drive from my house, but the price couldn't be beat. We decided to stay for a couple days and rent a car to drive around in, instead of taking a bus or an Uber to bring us around. That Thursday afternoon, at around 5:30 or so, after picking up our rental car, an old, beat-up pickup truck, we headed off to Springdale. After the long, hot, 2-hour drive, we rounded a corner and saw a large cornfield to our left, covered with at least 9 scarecrows. "Wow, look at those scarecrows," Rosa gushed, leaning out the window to look at them. "They look so real." "Wow, you're right," I said with a slight chuckle as I turned back to face the road after a quick glance at the large rows of corn. I saw a sign that read, "Happy Couple Farms." As I turned back, I saw an old man in a blue baseball hat and a brown leather jacket standing in the road and slammed my foot on the brake. "Whoa!" I yelled, annoyed. I ended up swerving around him and pulling into the parking lot of the hotel. There were only 2 other cars there, and I could immediately tell why. I stepped out of the car, and the second I did, an unexplainable scent filled my nose. I winced and gagged. Ugh, now I can see why this place was so cheap. I exclaimed to Rosa, who was busy grabbing her stuff from the back of the car. "It's probably the animals at the farm over there. We'll get used to it, eventually," she said optimistically. That's one of the things I loved about her. She always saw the bright side of things. After grabbing our duffel bags, we found the door and entered the building. On the inside, it was built like a beautiful cabin met with fancy diner. The walls were lined a red velvety texture, with deer antlers turned into candle holders hooked onto them. In the middle of the room was a large black leather couch, near a small wooden coffee table which rested on some old faux fur rugs. I looked to the right and saw the receptionist at the front desk. "Hello, sir, I'm here to check in." He looked at me for a moment, then turned around, shuffling through the drawers of a desk behind him. He turns back with a smile, and our room key in his hand. "Thank you, sir," I say. "Also, who was that man in the road? The old one with the blue hat?" He looked up quickly. I caught a look in his eye that something was wrong. "Him? Oh, he's just, owner of that farm over there," he says, pointing out the window. I lift an eyebrow in confusion and study him for a moment, before Rosa pipes up. "Hey, what's that farm over there anyway? Is it open for people to visit?" she asked, pointing out the window near the receptionist. "I've been dying to try some fresh corn from a farm, but haven't had the chance to go to one." The man stiffened a bit, then awkwardly locked his fingers together. It's not a good place to go. The couple who works there always stops by to see if any new people have stopped in. I get there trying to be nice, but it's a bit odd, you know?" I nodded my head. "Yeah, I understand. Maybe they just want to see how business is doing. Trying to buy the land off you, maybe?" The man shrugs, but something still seemed off. Maybe the owners of the farm made that stench to get people to not go to the hotel, so it would go out of business and they can take the land. I don't know. It's not something I really seem to care about since we're only staying for a few days. I snapped back from my thoughts to see Rosa walking up the old, creaky wooden stairs on the far side of the room. "Come on, let's go check out our room and eat. I'm starving," she says, dragging all of our stuff upstairs. "Coming, sweetheart. Put those bags down before you hurt yourself." I turn back to the receptionist and thank him with a quick nod before going to take some bags and head to our room. It was a nice room. One big bed with a soft, fluffy black comforter and 2 pillows. There were random paintings hung on the walls of horses and plants, and a large window which looked out to the farm again. At this point, it was around dusk, 8 p.m. We set our stuff down on a large brown chair in the corner. We chatted for a bit, eating our room service order of pizza, fries, and a liter of root beer. By the time we finished and decided to get ready for bed, the street lights turned on, faintly illuminating the outline of the field and the Scarecrows. I glanced around at each one as the sound of Rosa's shower songs playlist played in the background. I began counting them off in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4. I kept counting until I hit 10. Confused, I went through and counted again. Yep, there were 10 Scarecrows, but there were only 9 earlier. I never saw the owners come out. I brushed it off as the owners could have just put it in as we were unpacking and eating. I pulled the curtain shut and finished getting ready for bed. I glanced around the room to make sure everything was all set before we went to bed. The main light was off, the curtains were closed, and the windows were closed. After that, I ended up drifting off to sleep. However, a few hours later, I woke up, shivering. I sat up and glanced around the room as my eyes adjust to the darkness. I can feel a cool breeze coming from somewhere in the room. I switch on the light and my breath catches in my throat as I see where the breeze is coming from. I see the curtains, pulled open and fluttering in front of 2 large open windows. Rosa hates keeping the windows open at night. I instinctively look to my side to see if Rosa is okay. "Rosa!" I cut myself off with a short gasp. She wasn't there. I ripped the covers off and ran to the window, grabbing the curtains as I looked out. I took my hands off to lean on the windowsill and stifled a scream. They had blood on them, and it wasn't mine. From the streetlight nearest our window, I could see another large spot of blood on the ground. I hurriedly grabbed my jacket and shoes before running down the stairs and through the front door. The receptionist didn't stop me. I didn't even hear him. He must have been asleep. I ran towards the light and began following the pile of blood. It led right across the street. I ran through a row of crushed stalks of corn following the trail of blood. I tripped on something and fell. the air being knocked out of my lungs. As I sat there, catching my breath, a metallic scent filled my nose. It was the strong scent of blood, and a lot more than what I had seen. I glanced up, and to my horror, I see a scarecrow, but not any scarecrow. It was Rosa. My vocal cords froze and my lips quivered at what I was looking at. Where her eyes had been were bloody black buttons, poorly sewn into her sickly pale skin. The edges of her face were sewn with pieces of thick black rope, and straw stuck out between the stitches. Her forearms and legs were nailed to a large T-shaped piece of wood, with blood dripping down and soaking into the cracks. I looked to the right and see another scarecrow. It was the receptionist. That's why he was quiet when I left. I thought with a shiver. He wasn't there. I pulled out my phone and called 911 while running as fast as I could back to the hotel. Help! My girlfriend, the receptionist, come to the farm across the hotel. Quickly! About 15 minutes later, they show up and inspect everything. As I went to show them the mangled bodies of my girlfriend and the receptionist, I recoil with shock at what I see. 2 regular scarecrows? But they were just... I muttered to myself. After the police told me to show them everything, but the trail of blood, the bodies, everything was gone. The only proof I had was an open window. They had asked me a few more questions and then left. As I was leaving, I turned back and glanced at the scarecrows. One of them has a tear of blood running down its cheek.